joining us this morning as we discuss our business funding and tax information with emphasis on COVID relief. As we thought that this would be an opportune time to provide you with this information as we're actually been deep into the tax season. So just a couple of housekeeping items. We're going to be recording today's meeting and we'll share it along with accompanying slides with everyone that's on today's webinar.
Yeah, I could see it.
We will also hold a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. At that time, those who wish to ask a question may do so in the Q&A feature on the Zoom, and we will be glad to read those off for you. Next slide, Heather. So I am Pamela Lopez-Fettis. I'm Executive Director to Growth Dimensions Economic Development for Belvidere and Boone County. And I'm going to be your facilitator today as we progress through the Forward Forum. And let me get a chance to take this opportunity to introduce to you those who are new to Forward Boone County. So we created this group last spring to bring local leaders together and organizations together to combat the social and economic impacts of COVID. Forward Boone County is comprised of organizations dedicated to Boone County, and many of you, many of those are listed on our screen before you and are committed to working together to make our community stronger. So along with these partners, Forward Boone County has created an informational website, and this is dedicated to bring current guidance and information to our community as we work through this pandemic together. And you can find more information on www.forwardboone.org. Without further ado, I wanted to please join me in welcoming our panelists today. Stephen Konkle is our Economic Development Specialist at the Illinois District Office of U.S. Small Business Administration, and Jonathan McGee, who is the Deputy Director of Regional and Economic Development for the Department of Commerce and Economic Development through the state of Illinois. Mr. Konkle holds a BA in Economics from Western Michigan University and an MBA in Finance from Illinois Institute of Technology and Roosevelt University. He also studied economics at Western Michigan University prior to joining the SBA in 1985. Steve held a variety of treasury management and accounting positions in the manufacturing sector. He's also worked with the electronic components industry as well as the building materials industry. His last position was as a division controller for the Fortune 500 materials manufacturer. Since joining the SBA, Steve has worked in the liquidation division, entrepreneurial development division, and finance division. Currently, he is the economic development specialist and also the Veterans Business Development Officer at the International Trade Office at the Illinois District Office. And Mr. McGee is a social entrepreneur, a civic leader, and an external affairs expert with over 7 years of nonprofit, public sector, and social impact experience. He currently serves as a Deputy Director in Regional Economic Development for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Prior to this role, he founded the Global Organization for Applied Political Leadership. This was the first of its kind in its global training incubator for advocacy, specifically focused on socioeconomic communities of color. So Jonathan holds a bachelor's degree in political science and law enforcement from the Western Illinois University and a master's of professional studies in political management degree from George Washington University. I want to thank you both for joining us today. And I would like to go ahead and turn this over to Steve to begin his presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Very glad to be invited to go forward and talk about the SBA programs to assist businesses in the pandemic. First of all, first thing we want to do is go over the agenda. There are two pieces of legislation that control the programs that the SBA is administering through the pandemic era. The first is the CARES Act, which ran up until 1st of December, and then on December 27th, the Economic Aid Act was signed by President Trump, and so the present programs that are in operation are under the legislative pros of the Economic Aid Act and not the CARES Act. Now, a lot of the programs were carried over from the to the Economic Aid Act from the CARES Act, so there's going to be a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. So we'll go over the 4 programs that were involved, 2 loan programs and 2 grant programs. Next slide, please. This is going to be our agenda. Again, Congress decided that we were going to make certain modifications in the CARES Act when they started out the Economic Aid Act, and we're going to have some of these changes, and we're going to be discussing them, deliver critical aid to the small businesses and other eligible entities. Next slide, please. These are the 4 programs: the Paycheck Protection Program, the Debt Relief Program, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program are covered by the the loan program, and then the grant program is the targeted Eidl Advance and the Shuttered Venue Program. Next slide, please. The Paycheck Protection Program. The key elements to cover in this particular slide are the changes that have been made in the Economic Aid Act that are different from the CARES Act. First of all, in the Economic Aid Act, eligibility is expanded, and we're going to get into that later. Second point is in the CARES Act, when a business was preparing their application package, the coverage period was limited to 8 weeks or 24 weeks, one or the other. Now, under the Paycheck Protection Plan, they can pick any week between 8 or 24. They can go 8, 10, 15, 12, whatever number, as long as it's between 8 and 24 for the covered period in the of their particular application. We also, in the Economic Aid Act, developed the second draw PPP loan covering the hardest hit small businesses. We're going to cover that later in a minute. Then the next thing we are going to have is that the Economic Aid Act allowed that federal taxes would not cover PPP loan debt, and also expenses that the PPP loan proceeds were used to cover were covered by the PPP loan proceeds. Those expenses can be taken as deductions. So there are 2 elements of the deduction. The process, first of all, when you use the proceeds to pay the expenses, those proceeds, you can take deductions on your income tax. And then also, when we get into the forgiveness, if we do forgive the loan and you go through that properly, the loan will be, when the loan is forgiven, you don't pay federal gift tax on that. So those are those 2 elements. And again, we have a new simplified form for the PPP loans up to $150,000. And then there's another form for over $150,000. And the last item is that the Eidl Advance, and we'll get into that. That program, when it was in effect during the CARES Act, and it's no longer in effect, but we'll cover that in a few minutes. The amount that you got under the Eidl Advance was deducted if you had the PPP loan and a certain amount of forgiveness. For example, if you had a PPP loan for $20,000 and under the advance program, you would, let's say, had an advance of $3,000, the maximum amount that you would be allowed to be forgiven for the PPP loan would be $17,000. That rule has been done away with, so now in my example, you would be allowed to gain forgiveness for the full $20,000. So that's another change of the Economic Aid Act in the new legislation. Next slide, please. The first draw PPP loan. This again is for a business that was not eligible or did not receive a PPP loan under the CARES Act. Now they're receiving the PPP loan under the Economic Aid Act, so that there may be some changes in the provision. Most of the provisions were kept from the CARES Act, but there have been some changes. And these are a summary of some of the big changes. First of all, there's additional types of entities, and we'll be getting to that in a minute. And also covered expenses will be expanded. There are certain, for example, it was just direct payroll expenses were all that were covered under the CARES Act, but under the PPP Economic Aid Act provisions, not only are the payroll expenses covered, but such things as if you use the money to repair your building and after a civil disturbance, or you had a situation where you were providing for a order that you had ordered merchandise prior, and you needed money to cover the merchandise prior to the second draw. You could again use some of the money. On the SBA website, there's a listing of these particular additional types of expenses. And again, to repeat that now the covered period is anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks, and not simply 8 or 24. It's now 8 and anywhere in between it. Also, certain types of borrowers can request an increase, and you go to the SBA website, to the IFR, and they will give you an idea of whether your business is eligible or not. Of course, you must be in business by February 15th of 2020. Now, here's the big one. This program will end at the end of this month. March 31st, 2021 is when the Ppp program will end. In other words, the banks, keep in mind that you get this through the banks. You don't apply directly to the SBA. The bank has to have the application prepared and in the hands of the SBA processing center no later than the close of business on March 31st. And this applies for all. Now, what has happened here, and I want to bring what we call the exclusionary period. What happened, Biden signed an executive order, one of many, in which he designated the period from February 24th to March 9th. And during that period, the only applications that the processing center will consider are those that come from businesses with 20 or fewer employees. They will not consider an application for any business or any community organization over 20 employees. That is exclusionary period. That period will expire next Tuesday at 5 o'clock local time, and at that particular point, for the next 2 weeks after that, from the 9th through the 31st, the PPP Application Center will be open for businesses of all sizes. So that's, again, the crucial date is the March 31st date. That's when it runs out. And right now, as of the latest report that we have here in the district office, there was $284 billion that was appropriated for the Ppp program, and so far the number of the loans guaranteed have used up $142 billion of that, so they still have half the money left to use, as with some of the other programs. Next slide, please. There are some changes in the eligibility for a first draw loan. For example, under the new program, housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, 501c6s and certain news organizations are eligible for the program. This is an expansion, chambers of commerce, eligible news organizations, destination marketing. So if, let's say if the Growth Dimensions was to operate a program as an affiliated program called, let's say, Visit Belvedere, that's a destination marketing type of program, and that would be eligible. Also still eligible, there have not been any changes in that regard. The still sole proprietor, independent contractors, self-employed, partnerships, corporations, LLCs, 501c3s and 501c19s, and veterans organizations, and they are all still eligible for this. And we just expanded it to include the housing cooperatives, destination marketing, C6s, and eligible news. Next slide, please. The second draw. Now, as it says here, the second draw is for a company that already received a PPP loan and has 300 employees or less and suffered a 25% reduction in gross receipts. Now, again, for most lines of business, the maximum amount would be 2.5 times monthly expenses up to $2 million. There are certain other as in types of businesses, and this is what the reference to the NAIC 72 is about. That means that if your business is in one of those, the ceiling is now 3.5 times monthly payroll costs up to the $2 million limit. And the $2 million limit is the limit for all second draw Ppp loans. The next major points with the second draw is, first of all, the question of the reduction in gross receipts. Now, you have to have comparable periods of time. So, in other words, if you're had a situation where in the third quarter of 2019 you had a loss, you had sales of $100,000, and in 2020 third quarter the sales were, let's say, $80,000, that would not be a sufficient loss because you hadn't seen a 25% drop in gross receipts. Now, for the not-for-profit organizations that apply, the bank can apply there, and keep in mind the definition of gross receipts in the case of a not-for-profit organization is the IRS rule for gross receipts. In the IRS, any accountant or finance person for a nonprofit can check the IRS code and find out what the rule is, and then applying it to the receipts that the not-for-profit has gotten, they can determine whether they had a 25% reduction in gross receipts year over year. Next thing about the second draw loan is that it's a different set of forms. The banks, you have to remind the banks that it is second draw, and that you'll have to, when they give you the forms and they use the forms, they're going to have to use a different set of forms for the second draw as opposed to what they used for the first draw, because you've got two different loans. So next slide, please. And also additional eligibility criteria for the second draw is, again, that you must have the first draw used in its entirety. It must all be used up, or you must have forward commitments. In other words, if you have things coming in that you would plan to use the first draw money for, but those you didn't incur the debt at the time you thought you were going to, you incurred it at a later time, and you can justify the fact that there was a change in the time, that like a construction project or a inventory that didn't come in on time. And of course you have no more than 300 employees. And then again, the reduction in gross receipts, it has to be comparable periods. You cannot have the same 2 periods for the second draw, and then also the periods that you're using for the second draw cannot be the same 2 periods you used in the first draw. There can be no overlap in the periods at all. They have to, again, they sit down there with your accountant and make sure that you're not using the same comparable periods that you used in the first draw, and that the 2 periods that you used between 2019 and 2020 in the second draw match as far as the dates of the year is concerned. And that's essentially very critical, has to go in there. Next slide, please. What is the loan application process? First of all, on the SBA website, you have the lender match, and the lender match will give you the list of the banks that are eligible to use the PPP guarantee program. You can stay with the bank. One question we get asked is that in the second draw loan, if I am having a problem with the bank that I got the first draw PPP from, and I want to change banks and make application to a new bank for the second draw program, am I allowed to do that? And the answer is yes, you can. There are numerous cases of where people have got a PPP guarantee through Bank X, and they had a falling out with Bank X, so they went to Bank Y, and they're in the process of getting a application for the second bank. So that is permissible. And again, you find the paycheck protection. As far as contacting the SBA resource partners, one of our major resource partners we work with are the state small business development centers networks all around the country. We have 25 of them here in Illinois. They're part of the SBA resource network, and we include the staff of the SBA small business development centers in with the bankers when we are doing the training for the PPP program. So they understand the program, and if you have any questions about how to prepare yourself when you're going to approach a banker, the staff at the Small Business Development Center are familiar with the program, and they can work with you and your banker to try to get a application prepared properly. The second point with the application, again, once the application has been prepared, you can get all the supporting documents in order and also work with the Small Business Development Center that's in your area, and they can help you get the paperwork properly prepared so that you will be maximizing the potential of getting this through. You complete the application and help it. And then what will happen is that once the bank gets it, if they want to issue it, they'll contact the SBA, get the information to us, we'll review it, and then we will issue a guarantee, and this will go back to the bank. And again, one more time, March 31st is the deadline. This is the end of the program for new loan applications. Okay, next slide, please. Again, now the loans, again, these are the elements of the loan. It has a fixed interest rate, no requirement for collateral, no fees or prepayment penalties, and there's a 5-year maturity. Now, some of the loans that came through in the beginning of the, under the CARES Act, it was only a 2-year maturity, and the banks have the option of asking for a 5-year maturity if they want to, but we have to get that in the form of a bank request, not from the business owner. And again, the borrower starts to knows how much it will be given. The way it works is that there are 3 possibilities. Either the loan will not be forgiven and you'll have to pay it back. Second possibility is that the entire loan will be forgiven. And then the third possibility is part of the loan will be forgiven, and then the business will be on the hook for the rest of the loan balance. Now, the way we handle that is that if it's the loan is not forgiven, the SBA will notify the bank, and the bank will again notify the business that you'll be paying the loan back to the bank under the terms and conditions of the loan closing documents. And in the case of a partial forgiveness, the SBA will notify the bank that they are going to only forgive a certain portion of it. They will then make a wire transfer to the bank for the portion of that they will forgive, and then they will notify the borrower that they're going to be on the hook for the unforgiven portion of the loan. And then again, if it's total forgiveness, we will simply notify both the bank and the business that the loan has been totally forgiven. If the period of time that's worked here, what they're referring to, that the payments will start 10 months after the last day of the covered period. This is the 10-month window of opportunity. The applicant must contact the bank and start the request for forgiveness process within this 10-month period. And that 10-month, again, is designated by the individual loan documents showing what the covered period is and what the expense period is. So you have 10 months from that day to submit a forgiveness application. Now, once the forgiveness application has been submitted, the bank has 60 days to prepare a request and contact the SBA, and then the SBA has 90 days to get back to the bank with a decision on whether we're going to forgive it, and if so, how much, and what is going to happen. So the key numbers here are the 10 months from the last date of the covered period for the business to request forgiveness, and then once the forgiveness documents have been in the hands of the bank has 60 days to get them to the SBA, and then we have 90 days to give the answer back to the bank. Next slide, please. And again, these are some of the changes that are made in the for the loan forgiveness. Again, Eidl advances are no longer discussed. And again, to repeat the point, federal taxes gift taxes are not applicable. The deductions are. We strongly suggest that you either consult with your accountant or go through the IRS to get the information on that. And permissible, again, the new process for forgiveness is streamlined for loans that are $150,000 and under. And again, forgiven loans are not, you don't have to pay the federal gift tax on that. Next slide, please. Okay, economic injury disaster loan, that's the EIDL loan. That loan is being continued until the end of the calendar year for any COVID, so there is still the opportunity to apply for an EIDL. The terms and conditions of the EIDL have not really changed that much. The only thing that I would put here is that if the business has already received an EIDL previously, because the COVID declaration is the only one that's applicable, you don't have the opportunity to apply for a second EIDL loan. You get one shot at it, and that's it. And once so any of you that have applied for an EIDL loan and have gotten them, you're already taken care of in that regard. Next slide, please. Okay, the targeted Eidl Advance. Little background here. When the CARES Act came in, there was a provision in the CARES Act whereby the Eidl loans had a clause in them that if a business needed the money immediately up to $10,000 when the application was reviewed, the SBA would send them the appropriate amount of money, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, and that amount would not have to be repaid as part of the EIDL loan. So if you got an EIDL loan, let's say for $50,000, and you needed $4,000 right away to meet your payroll, we would give you the money for the $4,000, and you wouldn't have to pay that back. So you'd only owe the $46,000. One of the changes that was made was that provision was removed from the economic injury disaster loan. The EIDL is no longer being offered to new applicants, but what we are doing, Congress decided that we would take the businesses where the situation was they had applied for the EIDL under the CARES Act. They were in a low-income area, and they had got none or part of the EIDL during the first run-through under the CARES Act. Again, due to lack of funding, will receive the requirements per the targeted EIDL funding availability. The big thing here is the line, we will reach out to those who may qualify. You will be getting if you get what we call an EIDL invitation package, that means that you fit this situation, that you did have the Eidl Advance and you were in a circumstance where the money was not there to cover it, and so the invitation document in reality is a supplement to the original application, where you have to eventually justify that the situation is the same as it was when you applied for the EIDL back under the CARES Act, and you still need the advance money. And if you qualify, then we will go ahead and send the money to you. Next slide, please. Now, this is the information. The invite will include a list, and all of these items that you see on the slide now have to be included if you think that you're eligible and you need the grant that you would have gotten. That'll all be in there. You have to have all of this information and then submit it, and then we will review it. And if it qualifies, you will get the appropriate grant money. If it doesn't, you won't. The thing to remember about this is it's a one trial only. In other words, one shot at it. You prepare the package under the terms of the invite, submit that, and there's no reconsideration, no change. You either get the money or you get notification that you're not eligible, one or the other. No in between. And this is what you have to submit as part of the when you get the package. Go ahead, please. Next slide, please. And again, this is the reaffirming that if you have any questions about it, check with the targeted advance. You have to get all of this information, and that's a new bank account if there's a change or whatever. But again, if you get the invitation package, read it over very carefully. And if you have any questions, go to that link on to Target Advance at SBA, and they can answer your questions. Go ahead. Next slide, please. The Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. This program we're going to be opening the portal shortly. It has not been opened as of yet. And this is the grant program for, again, the types of businesses that are shown on the PowerPoint slide. Again, this is a grant program, not a loan program. Now, the SAM reference, that refers to the System of Awards Management, which is a program that the the federal government has, whereby anytime a business is awarded a contract to provide a good or service to a federal agency, prior to submitting their application for the solicitation for the bid, they have to go through the SAM process and have to be qualified as a recipient under this program. Now, the small business development centers, if you're one of those businesses and qualify, and the procurement technical assistance centers, which is also part of the SBA network, these programs provide you with the necessary training. They can show you how to get qualified for SAM. The reason this was necessary was because the way the Economic Aid Act was written, the SAM monies are considered performance of a contract and not grants for a service. So therefore, we have to follow the SAM procedure. And again, these are the types of, when this becomes active, we'll be taking applications for the grant. Next slide, please. And this is a chart about what is going on for the various programs, how they connect. As a point, if you get a PPP loan, you cannot get a shuttered value grant. And again, you got to choose between the two. You have to be, first draw is eligible. For second draw, if you don't have a first draw, you can't have a second draw. And again, you may apply for only way you could apply for the targeted grant or the targeted advances that if you had it for. So this is basically the listing we have there. Next slide, please. Debt relief. This is to remind everybody that one of the programs is that if you have a SBA guaranteed loan during the pandemic, the banker can apply to get have the SBA pay the principal and interest. This slide is something that you should check with your banker to find out if they can go through the process of getting the debt relief for you during the period of the pandemic. And again, lenders for the debt relief question. Next slide, please. And these are, again, the summary of the paycheck protection, the debt relief, the EIDL, and the shuttered venues. Quick word here, the standard SBA 7A and 504 loan programs are still active. We're still working on them. And if the bank decides that they want to do a standard 7A or a standard 504 rather than using the PPP guarantee, we will accept the application and review it. So there's a possibility you can get help under those programs. So those are the 4 programs that we have. Next slide, please. And this is the other assistance. I said the Small Business Development Center network is available to help you get through the scores available in the Women's Business Center. But the SBDC folks have been trained on the SBA program, and they can help you get yourself ready to go to a bank for application. Next slide, please. And there's more information on the SBA, or you can go for more detail, more up-to-date, more information. That's check those websites because the information does change, and all the information is on there for any of the programs. Next slide, please. Okay,
Thank
I'm
you,
done.
Steve.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of good information in there. And I just want to remind everybody that we'll be sending out these slides and recording of today's session. So you'll be able to access this. And also to submit your questions in the Q&A at any point during this presentation. And we'll be asking them at the conclusion of today's presentations. So next is my honor to introduce to you once again to Jonathan McGee with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to discuss business funding and options and tax information through the state of Illinois. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Pamela, and thanks, Stephen, for that very robust overview of PPP and SBA programs. I just want to start by saying, my team has been combating the pandemic on behalf of the state of Illinois for about a year and 2 months now. And so, really just understand and want to empathize with the businesses on the line, the challenges that you're facing. And while we're all kind of holding our breath for federal bill, my goal today is really to share with you what's available in terms of what we have here at DCEO, but also the supports and the infrastructure and ecosystem of, business development tools that we have to help grow businesses, especially during this challenging time. Slide. So much to Stephen's point earlier, you have a myriad of resources available to you to help you take advantage of federal assistance. While we may not have any state dollars at the time, Governor Pritzker invested $3.2 million in, number one, expanding CARES supplemental dollars to our small business development centers, which Stephen mentioned before. We actually have 42 small business development centers across the state. And again, they serve tens of thousands of businesses, right? From just basic business practices to COVID-19 relief. And again, we have CPAs, contracted CPAs and business advisors. They have folks who are there to help walk you through not just the PPP application, but the Eidl application and, quite frankly, other federal opportunities that are available through the Small Business Association. So wanted to kind of start off there. And then again, we invested an additional $1 million in what we call community navigators, which this was touted by the Biden administration as a program that works. And we have a list of those on our website. And again, these are folks that are doing one-to-one consulting and technical assistance and webinars and outreach. And again, both in Spanish and English, providing CPAs so that when the time comes for you to think about forgiveness and think about how the tax implications of this program can impact your business, that they're on deck and they're available. So again, we at Illinois are fifth in the nation when it comes to PPP loans and again, how many businesses that are getting funding compared to the other larger states. So we're doing fairly well, and we know that these efforts are paying off. So wanted to kind of start there. Next slide. But then just wanted to kind of talk to you about just basic, frontline assistance that we offer here at DCEO. I'm Deputy Director of Regional Economic Development. And so as you can see, this is a full map of our economic development regions here in the state of Illinois. And as you can see, you all are in the Northern State Line region, which we're actually working on filling. We used to have someone in that role. But the point is that, Team Red lives and works in your community. We can help you from business attraction, retention, and expansion to COVID-19 relief efforts to workforce development, coordination, and public infrastructure opportunities. I like to call us the Deloitte for state government. We're economic development consultants, and my team stands ready to assist you. In addition to that, we have our Office for Minority Economic Empowerment, which exclusively focuses on minority enterprises. I say all that to say that, if you ever feel that you need support around anything that the state of Illinois offers, or quite frankly, even the federal government for that matter. Not only do we have 42 SBDCs, small business development centers, we have 15 team members plus 4 additional team members on the front line awaiting and available to support you. We also have our first stop line, which is critical to answering questions around economic development support to COVID-19 relief. So just wanted to show this slide and give folks a refresher on the people we have available to support you. Next slide. So again, just how our team works with businesses and communities. A lot of the times businesses provide company overviews, job created, location and site needs, investment capital, and communities, quite frankly, will say, hey, we need support with infrastructure, we need support with workforce. And so again, DCEO and Team Red, again, kind of provides the tools, the tips, the insights, the strategies to meet that need, right? And, we are the problem solvers on behalf of the agency. And so no question is too big and no problem is too large. We are truly here to find solutions for you. And so, again, just wanted to kind of illustrate for you the role that the Regional Economic Development Team plays here in the state of Illinois. And again, it's really aimed at, looking at all the levers, right, of economic opportunity. And now that we're in the era of COVID-19 relief and economic recovery, we are laser focused on ensuring that businesses understand what's available to them. Next slide. Access to capital, and we know that this is an issue for all businesses, right, has been something that has constantly arose, not just in, COVID-19, but before COVID-19. And our Advantage Illinois Loan Program, quite frankly, I think is underutilized. This is a participating loan program in which we partner with lending institutions across the state of Illinois to provide access to capital to businesses that otherwise would not be able to get a loan, right? And this is subsidized by the state of Illinois. We work right hand in hand with the business and the banking partner to figure out how do we help you get the capital that you need. Again, it's a blended interest rate, which means that chances are the interest rate you're going to get working with us in our Advantage Illinois Loan Program is going to be better than what you'll get if you just go to the bank. And again, this is about job creation. The goal here is job creation and investment. So if you need to acquire a new property, you need franchise fees, you got other equipment costs. Like Advantage Illinois is definitely a program, that you can take advantage of. And it's something that, we have funding for and we've continued to push. And another piece to kind of add here, if there's a banking partner that's not currently in our system, the application is easy. And so, if you don't see a banking partner on our list, on our website, again, happy to kind of explore options with you, but did want to make this available to you. Next slide. And again, we know, just given equity and the importance of it, that even with our Advantage Illinois Loan Program, businesses that needed funding the most did not receive it. And so the Fund for the Advancement for Minority Enterprises is an offshoot, right, of the Advantage Illinois Loan Program, but exclusively focused on minority enterprises. And again, really the goal here is to ensure that minority enterprises that want access to capital, to create jobs, to grow their footprint in the state of Illinois, have that opportunity. And so again, we've got many success stories here. This includes veterans, women-owned businesses, as well as folks of color. And so again, just wanted to share this with you all because, once we do get out of COVID, right, and as we think about recovery, a lot of that requires capital and job growth. So wanted to present this before you today. Next slide. So again, Stephen talked a lot about our small business development centers. Did just want to kind of share with you overall some of the work that our small business development centers have done just over the course of last year. And we expanded 7 new SBDCs. They were predominantly in Black communities. We are really trying to make sure that, our programs have this equity lens. We helped, businesses get over $5 million in funding. And again, I think, wanted to just highlight the First Stop Business Center. These are all free of cost, all of these. And so, the worst thing that I hate to hear is when businesses say, they feel helpless. And, our goal here at DCEO, from large to small, right, out of state, in the state, want to grow, we are the economic arm, and our goal is to provide you with these economic tools to drive growth. So again, just want to underscore that and share with you again, just yet another resource that we have here at DCEO. Next slide. Really quick, a lot of folks don't think about, when they're thinking about revenue generating, activities or income, they don't think about contracting. And, I think with COVID-19, government spending is at an all-time high, which means what? That contracting opportunities are at an all-time high. And so in order to do work with the state of Illinois, you need to be what we call BEP certified. That's the Business Enterprise Program. And so My team members are happy to walk you through that process. We work very closely with Central Management Services to help increase the pipeline for this program. The key here is that there's many entry points when it comes to contracting, right? You've got state goals that we have to meet in terms of procurement. We have our grantees, whether it's from Rebuild Illinois to broadband to our minority enterprise grants. Again, they have BEP goals, as well as other state agencies, as well as just federal opportunities. I wanted to present to you, our procurement technical assistance centers, which are housed in our SBDCs, but are exclusively focused on helping businesses win work, win bids, and get certified. And so, as someone who actually sits on the BEP Council for Illinois, and am very interested in increasing contracting opportunities for not just minority-owned enterprises, but all enterprises, I can't stress enough the importance of taking advantage of these opportunities. Again, we gave we helped businesses secure nearly 800 government contracts valued at 1.1 billion last year, and we're hoping to increase that number. And so whether it's BEP, whether it's getting connected to the P-tax, whether it's trying to figure out federal opportunities, again, P-tax and myself and our team are a resource. Next slide. Wanted to talk a little bit about broadband, and I know that this is where folks kind of get lost, but the governor is really committed to ensuring that all communities are connected and that we are actually building capacity for broadband across the state. So we have current grant opportunities available for broadband. A lot of the times, this is based on making sure that we have these public-private partnerships. We're working with community partners and entities to ensure that when we create this infrastructure of broadband support, that there's equity in it and that we're actually focusing on the communities that need it the most. And so a local broadband planning and capacity building grant is exactly what it sounds like, helping regions and helping other parts of the state really think about critically, how do they eliminate the digital divide, right? How do they collaborate to ensure that everyone, no matter their circumstance, no matter their zip code, can have a computer. And again, hiring technical assistants, right? Technical folks that can help work with communities and answer questions around broadband. So wanted to make that available to you in the deadline on the next slide. Our Digital Navigator program. Again, the goal here is to identify maps and digital inequities and come up with digital inclusion assets and really think about program gaps, right? Broadband and internet is something that, we all use, but never understood how complex it was. And I think what the pandemic has done is, made us realize the importance of being connected and the importance of broadband. And so, again, the Digital Navigator program is exactly what the namesake insinuates, is to help communities navigate, these digital inequities and, identify, again, where is the need, where can we partner with companies, and where can we provide that technical assistance. And so again, that deadline's the 15th, and just wanted to flag that for the group in case that is something that folks are interested in. Next slide. Our Broadband Ready program. So we've piloted 4 regions. One of them is the Northern State Line region. We'll be working with Northern Illinois and a couple of stakeholders around this region to really think about how do we plan, how do we evaluate and align regional efforts to ensure, right, again, that folks have technology, know how to use technology, and then that the broadband is available, which, shortly after this, I'll talk about our PCs for People program, which I think is an opportunity for small businesses, EDCs, and chambers to come together, right, and bridge that digital divide, specifically when it comes to technological equipment. But again, this program is really, truly focused on building a stakeholder base, a thought leadership group when it comes to broadband, specifically in the regions, to establish, again, that infrastructure and ecosystem of support so that we can enhance connectivity across the country. Next slide. PCs for People. So Governor Pritzker identified that 1.1 million households in Illinois do not have computers. And I raise that because now more than ever, we know the importance of that. So we're working with PCs for People, a national nonprofit, to source computers and refurbish them and redistribute them free of charge. We want to work with Boone County. We want to work with all the other 101 counties and companies and communities to work to source computers, refurbish them quickly, and stand up events in your neighborhood so that not only folks who don't have computers can have them, but that then they can start to explore connectivity and broadband. So again, I'm happy to talk more about this, but this is a really exciting initiative and something that I think folks can really rally behind. We all have a computer somewhere, that maybe we don't use. And so again, my team is really on the front line for pushing that. Next slide. Thank you. Again, I know that was very quick, and I know that was a lot of information, but again, please feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to my team, reach out to Pamela. She knows how to get in touch with me. And just want to thank Growth Dimension for all the work that they do here on the Northern State Line, specifically in Boone County. I would be remiss if I did not say how much of a partner Pamela is and how much of a partner you all are here in Boone County. And we want to continue to see your growth and continue to see you thrive. So thanks again, Pamela, for inviting me and having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking this time to bring this valuable information. I mean, to me, that you guys are not only trying to address some of the impacts of COVID, but also turning around, and so we're in a better position for economic recovery. So I think that these tools and this information is very key. I have a number of questions, though. With these loans, how long does it take to get approval for some of these grants, like the PPP, the EIDL, or the Advantage Illinois loan?
I'll let Stephen jump on the.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, well, the PPP, the answer is that it all depends upon how the biggest problem that we've had with the PPP has been the fact that the business owners have not got their paperwork prepared and organized properly. That's been the big hang-up. The eligibility is what the eligibility is, and this is why the references were made to the SBDC in my answer. As far as the EIDL is concerned, now that loan is a loan that you're borrowing the money directly from the government. The difficulty there again has been what we suggest that a lot of folks do is go to the website, download a paper copy of the application package from the Office of Disaster Assistance website, download it, go through, pencil and put the information in that what you think is, and then reopen it and try to submit it electronically. Because with the EIDL, you could either submit it electronically or you could submit it in paper form. And that, again, the electronic one is the preferred, but going over the paper form and going to the Office of Disaster Assistance, they can make decisions very quickly. But again, you have to have your paperwork in order. As far as the other programs, again, another factor we're having with regards to the PPP in particular. In one regard, this has been a blessing for the SBA, because what we've done is we've literally doubled the number of banks that are familiar with the SBA program. Here in Illinois, we had of the 431 banks that are the FDIC regulates here in the state of Illinois, we only had 191 of them that were in the SBA program prior to Ppp, and after Ppp, we're up to 360 of them. So the banks are coming into the program, but as with any banking situation, the banks that have been using the SBA program for several years and submitting applications, they learn a lot faster than the banks that are just starting up. So, and of course, the EIDL program, that one is, we're working on that one, and that one is, we set a record for the number of loans. So it's hard to say, but the big thing is get your paperwork in order before you want to apply.
Okay. Now, there's some of these are loans, and some of the individuals have a period of time which they have to pay them back. But what in the case of if somebody, I know that these are to keep businesses in business, but what happens if somebody cannot keep it afloat and has to close their business or they sell their business? What is their responsibility on the business?
Well, basically, again, depending as far as EIDL is concerned, what they would have to do is contact the SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance and indicate that their correspondence with the office of the Fort Worth, the processing center down in Fort Worth, and again indicate that they were closing, and again try to make arrangements to renegotiate the loan again with the Office of Disaster Assistance if it's an EIDL. And of course, in the case of a Ppp, they would have to start contact the bank that they got the loan from, and then the bank would contact the SBA Servicing Center, and they would go through the process of determining what the situation was and take it from there. But those are the gateways: the Office of Disaster Assistance if it's an EIDL loan, and the bank if it's a Ppp loan.
And is there a list of local banks that the SBA works with and that you provide loans? So how do I know that my bank is a participating company?
Go to the lender match.
Okay, lender match.
Yes, that's why going back to the slide on the website when we went through I'm sorry, not on the website, but on the PowerPoint, there was a reference made to starting the second step in the process would be to contact the lender match, because what that will do is it'll provide a list of all of the banks in the area that by zip code that are eligible to use the SBA program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. I don't know if I have any additional questions. I know Jonathan had to jump off, apologize. He had to run to another meeting, but I want to thank both of our presenters today for providing this information. This is extremely valuable, and sometimes there's questions that come up afterwards. Again, we're going to be sharing this, so you'll be able to introduce some of these questions directly to us or directly to our presenters, and we'll have their contact information included. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out and joining us today. If you want to get more information about these resources, or we also have some information and questions that can help with the vaccination process in your facility, please use the COVID-19 at Boone County Health.org or contact your Boone County Health Department. And Forward Boone would be glad to also help you through that process. Again, thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Pam. I appreciate it.
Jonathan.
A wonderful opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
It's been wonderful to have both the SBA and the DCEO as part of our partners in Boone County. Thank you very much.